Welcome back, listeners. My name is David Hensley, and I am the captain of the SS Long Walk Talks Lost. I am joined tonight by my bosun,
Cara Hayes,
and my first mate,
Robert Bravard.
And we're revisiting some things from earlier seasons with this intro, because that's going to be an ongoing theme of this season and this batch of episodes, revisiting old trends. And sorry, listeners, we took an unintended about 6 weeks hiatus. Yeah, 6-week hiatus that resulted from the three of us being involved in theater and lying to ourselves about what our availability was going to be like. This is also take 2 tonight because my recorder decided to glitch out about 45 minutes into our first attempt at this episode. So, there might be some things we expand on and some things that we're just like, oh, and this happens. Okay, cool.
The show itself, as Lost itself frequently gets into, destiny can be an uphill battle sometimes.
It really can. Maybe those things just weren't important, those things that we said last time. We'll say brand new, more like insightful things this time.
The real take one was the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. Thank you, Robert. So we're going to pick up where we left off. But before we do that, Robert, we had a themed drink this week.
We did. So of the 3 episodes we did this week, one of them was called Sundown. And there's a beverage called the Tequila Sunrise, which is tequila, orange juice, and grenadine, cherry syrup. So it gives you this lovely, yellow-bodied beverage with kind of red streaks going down it. And there's a reverse of it called the Tequila Sunset or Tequila Sundown, which mixes pomegranate juice in. So instead of it being kind of the orange and yellow, the orange and red contrast, this one is sort of shades and hues of red. I admit I didn't quite get the grenadine right. It didn't look as good visually as I would have hoped, but I thought it tasted pretty good.
Taste is all that matters.
It really was, because as I said, I feel bad that I didn't actually look at the thing to be like, wow, what a beautiful sunset this is. I just sort of drank it and thought it was delicious. So thank you for that, Robert. All right, picking up where we left off with episode 604, The Substitute.
Yes, so this is technically a John Locke episode, though it's kind of an interesting thing because while we're following Locke and the Flash sideways, on the island we're really following Flock, or the Man in Black as we've called him. Although I guess the corpse of John Locke gets its own C-plot this episode, so technically Locke is in both plot lines, but yeah, it's a little bit of a change up there. We start the Flash sideways of Locke as he's driving home from the airport, and he's got his van with a motor lift, and I just noted the first thing we see of him when he parks is he wheels out onto the lift to get lowered down to the driveway, and the first shot we see is a pan up that goes past the shoes that he's wearing, which for me always calls back to that beautiful scene in season 1 in Walkabout where we see him waking up on the beach for the first time, looking down, seeing that his shoe has come off but that his toes are moving, and then he looks around, finds his shoes, and gets back up. And now, seeing him land and still be in the chair is just kind of a reminder of what a different journey this Flash sideways Locke is on. What's not different is that he's David, how'd you put it?
Oh, well, even in an alternate reality situation, his life still does kind of suck.
Yeah, the lift jams halfway down. He tries to sort of hop the rest of the way on the wheelchair, but pitches forward, ends up face down on his lawn. His sprinklers go off. A dog does not come up and pee on his head, but it's sort of moving in that direction.
It's the only thing that's missing from the scene, honestly.
Truthfully.
But everything is better for him in other ways because he is still involved with Helen, played by the great returning Katie Segal?
Yeah.
Not Siegel, Segal.
Yeah, there's Katie Segal and Kate Siegel of Mike Flanagan fame.
And not only are they still an item, they are in fact engaged in this version. And so, just great to see Katie Segal come back, and just wonderful actress. And with the relatively limited screen time Helen gets compared to some of the show's other recurring cast, she's still just, the actress brings so much presence to that. Listeners, I do apologize. In addition to everything else, I'm getting over a bit of a sinus thing, so if my voice sounds scratchy or you hear me coughing off to the side for a little bit, sorry, that's just a thing.
Call it like a bonus feature of this podcast. Everyone just gets to hear the noises that we all make.
Oh, great.
One other thing that's mentioned is that in talking about their wedding, Helen kind of apologizes for what a mess it's turning out to be and suggests that they just elope. And she's like, it could be my parents, your father, a priest. That's all we need. suggesting, without saying the name Anthony Cooper, that Locke is on much better terms with his father in this reality. Although, Cara, you pointed out that that does raise an interesting question.
Yeah, so who pushed Locke out the window? Because if it was his dad, maybe he has a different dad.
That's possible.
Yeah, I mean,
And maybe it was still Anthony Cooper that pushed him out the window. Well, that makes my brain hurt.
yeah, I mean, my counterpoint was that we're dealing with an alternate reality kind of scenario in which it's entirely possible something like OSHA doesn't exist. So maybe he just fell off a really high platform.
Into the Baylor.
One of the many perils you face at a box company.
Exactly.
Thought all those cardboard boxes would break his fall, but no.
Instead, they broke his back.
Speaking of unsafe work environments, back on the island, we find out that after punching Richard in the throat and dragging him into the jungle, Flock put him in a sack and dangled him from a tree for an indeterminate length of time. And then he cuts him down so they can have a conversation. But yeah, this is not a fun season for old Richard Alpert.
No, and it's worth pointing out to our listeners that we are utilizing the popular fan nickname, Fake Locke, and just calling him Flock, in case anybody's like, wait, what, who?
Yeah, because you can't really call him John Locke. It's very clear that he's not, but since Locke's still on the show, you got it. Yeah. But so he kind of starts talking to Richard in what's going to become kind of a theme over the next few episodes and really the rest of the season, which is the Man in Black having sort of a two-part pitch to everybody, which is one, you were stupid to ever follow Jacob in the beginning, and two, Jacob's dead now, so it doesn't really matter anyway. And with Richard, especially since he's been with Jacob longer than really anybody else on the island, the Man in Black kind of hits home by referencing the candidates, and Richard doesn't know what he's talking about. And the Man in Black, sounding kind of sincere, but also laying it on a bit thick. Oh, Richard, I'm sorry. You mean you've been doing everything he told you all this time, and he never said why? Just again, calling out the very background manipulative way that Jacob does things, and the reason that someone like Richard might deserve to feel a little let down by that. Richard does not go along with it for now, but you can tell it kind of, that point sticks with him a little bit. We also get a neat segment of the sort of the monster's eye view. Like we see, it's kind of like Evil Dead, but a little more aerial, of like flying over the hills and in the mountains and through the trees. And then we get a shot looking into the window of Sawyer's house in New Otherton, where we see the reflection of the black smoke without seeing itself. And then when he comes up to where Richard is, we see like the smokes, we see the camera stop, and then John Locke's feet step into the frame, which is a nice little thing. He does go back to visit Sawyer, who is, as you do when you've just gotten out of a long-term relationship, getting hammered and listening to loud music, just sitting around in his boxers, drinking, I guess, is it Dharma whiskey?
Yeah, he was drinking from a big bottle of Dharma branded bourbon.
I couldn't find any of the, what is the really fancy scotch that,
McCutcheons.
I can't find the McCutcheons. They finally ran out of their island supply. When Sawyer says he's there because this is the future version of his house, Flock comes back with an interesting point saying, you just lived here for a while, James. This was never your house. Which is an interesting line coming from a guy who's literally been body hopping the whole time we've known him. That, Sawyer doesn't have a house. Well, you don't even have a body on this island.
Would have been
Mister.
great if he could have said that.
I'm here for that kind of drama.
Sawyer, for his part, immediately recognizes this isn't Locke he's talking to. He says specifically, Locke was always scared, even when he pretended he wasn't, and you don't seem scared at all. And Flock just kind of shrugs and goes with that. Back in the Flash Sideways, Locke gets fired from his job at the box company by his douchebag boss, Randy. Although I kind of have to say, Randy's sort of justified, because we learn that, I don't think this was the case in the primary reality, but in this version, Locke got the plane tickets to Australia for a work conference that he was supposed to be attending. And then he went off to try and do the walkabout. And when he got rejected from that, he just got on the plane and came home. So his company paid for him to go there. He claimed he was doing a bunch of work events and then just tried to come home with nobody the wiser. And when they check and find out, no, he never did any of it. Yeah, that'll get you fired.
100%, yeah.
If not fired and sued.
Yeah, because I guess realistically now he owes them all that money. Womp womp.
I think he tries to say, let's just call that my vacation week. But Randy points out, you had a wedding coming up that you were going to take your vacation week for.
Of course, what company only gives 1 week of vacation? Sorry.
I was going to say, I can see Randy being like that, but a company that Hurley runs, you would think would be really generous with its time off packages.
Agreed.
Speaking of, Locke goes out to the parking lot to, with his box of, cleaned out desk stuff. And because he is not parked in the handicap spot, Hurley's Humvee is parked right next to him, so Locke can't get the lift out to enter his car. And when Hurley comes out, Locke starts clearly venting just the day's frustrations at him. But Hurley being Hurley, nobody can stay too mad at him for long. And after agreeing that, his boss Randy is a douche, Hurley quickly produces a card for a temp agency that he owns and tells Locke to go there to get set up with a new job. Which has always been a thing with Hurley that, nobody can stay mad at him. He's the guy on the island everybody loves. But in keeping with kind of this thing that we're seeing in the Flash sideways of characters leaving behind these things that have dragged them down or becoming more full versions of themselves, this Hurley just seems really comfortable and at ease just telling people, hey, here's how I can help you. Here's how you can move forward. And it's just a great little call ahead to where Hurley's journey is ultimately going. Again, not saying too much because I still want Cara to see the fullness of that on its own, but I'm going to keep noting those little signposts when we pass them.
And I just realized now, I think it's also worth noting in regards to knowing where Hurley's story is going. When John gets out to his car and sees that Hurley's right next to him, he tries to be petty by just opening the lift anyway, presumably so that it would smash into Hurley's Hummer. But it won't open all the way. It stops just shy of hitting his car, which is another things are kind of rough for John moment, but also I guess it could also be considered a neat little bit of foreshadowing there as well.
Well, as Hurley said back in the season premiere, nothing bad ever happens to him. He's the luckiest guy alive.
Yeah, interesting.
Back on the island, so the corpse of John Locke gets its own little start going with what I called the statue crew, just to distinguish the people who were hanging around outside the statue when Flock and Ben went in to kill Jacob, which currently, now that Flock wiped out most of Jacob's kind of ineffective backup team, I think it's just down to Alana, Ben, Sun, and Lapidus, and the corpse of Locke. And Alana stops to gather up some ashes from the fire where Jacob's body was burned, and then is like, all right, we got to go to the temple. Let's meet up with everybody. But Sun says that they need to take time to bury John Locke, which is interesting because that was such a fixture of the first few seasons. Anytime a member of the survivors would die, they had that hill that they would bury them on. Everybody would gather. They'd say a few words. It was one of those kind of key communal events every few episodes. And that Sun is the only 815 survivor among that group. It's kind of touching that she's the one who insists they give Locke that process.
And it's also well-deserved, I think, for poor John Locke, who's gone through so much to end up just as a corpse in rotting on a beach under the hot sun with a crab crawling on his face. Give the man just a shred of dignity by allowing him a proper burial, please.
I mean, they could have wrapped him in something, but okay.
Yeah, and I mean, prior to, just being just openly laying on the beach, they also carried him around in a metal rectangle for several days, baking in there.
We're really glad we're not watching this in smell-o-vision.
Oh, thank God.
We get another great island tradition finally rears its head in season 6.
Ah, yes, the classic jungle run, because on their way through the forest, Sawyer and Flock stop and see a phantom child, which had been previously glimpsed earlier, but Richard couldn't see it. Now Sawyer is able to confirm that, he can see the phantom child too. And the phantom child takes off running, and Flock goes off running after it, giving us a nice jungle run check-in.
And I don't think it's not confirmed this episode, but that's young Jacob, right? I mean,
pretty sure,
Just seeing the look, and he's got kind of that others in their jungle chic look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it ends when he trips and the child standing over him, and I think says he's a candidate, you can't kill him, talking about Sawyer.
Yes, and we a little bit of the old John Locke comes shining through out of Flock because he tells the phantom child, "Don't tell me what I can't do."
Which is interesting because you think of a parallel between Locke and And Flock, the man who's now walking around his body, for Locke, don't tell me what I can't do was like a rejection of his limitations, was the idea of like I can still aspire and triumph and overcome. And for Flock, it's just this kind of petulant, shut up, your rules don't apply to me, that he's the guy who's trying to break the system and throw out all the rules. And so for him, that's what that phrase means. Just, interesting little parallel between the two of them. So back in the Flash Sideways, Locke goes to the temp agency and has a little interview where they ask him, personality-based questions. What animal are you? And the woman who's asking him the questions is a kind of red-haired lady who we were all like, she's giving kind of a weird performance. Like, I don't know where, I don't think we know her from anywhere, but just she's got this kind of soft, breathy voice. And I had to look it up, but she actually appeared previously on the show back in season 3 when Hurley and his dad were kind of bonding, and his dad was trying to convince him that he wasn't really cursed. And so he took him to a psychic who was going to do a spell to break the mad mojo or whatever. And midway through, Hurley figured out that this was just someone that his dad had hired to pretend to convince him that it was all past. And so in the Flash Sideways, she's now working for Hurley's agency under the direct supervision of none other than Rose.
Yeah, and I have to say here, if I was in a job interview and the interviewer asked me what kind of animal I was, I would just have to be like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, are we going to talk about my experience or my education? I don't need to tell you if I'm a goddamn golden retriever or not.
No, because I'm a honey badger.
Again, just going by that actress' performances, I can totally see that's not even like a standard procedure for them. That's just how she likes to do it. Anybody else would just be like, okay, so what are your 3 skills that you think are most? And she's just like, no, I need to know if he's a koala or a sea turtle.
I'm a possum and a trash can.
But yeah, it's so Sideways Rose tells Locke, because she says that she still has cancer, and so she kind of relates to Locke feeling confined by his wheelchair and wanting to like break out and do something else. But she tells him, you need to accept that there are things you can't do and you need to build forward from there. And again, just knowing where things are ultimately going, the fact that she's kind of working as part of Hurley's organization and that her goal is to help someone let go of this thing that held him back is just a very interesting piece of foreshadowing. But yeah, that Locke ultimately does agree and decides to start moving forward again.
Yeah, because don't tell me what I can't do, and like I can overcome anything and I can do everything everyone else can do. It's a good like positive attitude to have until it isn't anymore.
Yeah. It can be harmful.
Yeah, and we see that it very much is.
That like if you just are throwing yourself against a wall because you're convinced it'll break if I throw hard enough, then yeah, a lot of the time it's like you could just look a few feet to the right and maybe there was a door.
And God
or
bless.
You go flying out and you land on your lawn.
Yeah, or in a parking lot and break your spine. God bless Rose. If more people had listened to her from the start, this would be a very different show.
Back on the island, Flock and Sawyer keep walking towards wherever they're going together. And I was trying to think about this just generally because Flock is hinting, he's like, I used to be a person before all this, I know what it's like to lose someone you love and to be betrayed, just as his way of connecting with Sawyer. But I was thinking, despite wearing someone else's face, which is an inherently deceptive thing to do, he's appeared as Christian, he's appeared as Yemi, he's been all of these different people to try to manipulate. I'm trying to remember if he ever actually like directly lies to someone's face. Because I think he gets Sawyer to come along with him by saying, what if you could see the person you loved again? Which is an implication, but he's not saying I can bring Juliet back. He's just giving him a hint that, it's an implication. I don't know. He's a deceptive figure, but I don't know if he ever actually says something that's outright false.
Because of the implications. We find that's an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference.
Not
for you,
someone
Cara.
I would get on a boat with.
Because of the implications. I'll play you a clip later, Cara, so you're in the know. So poor beleaguered John Locke, the real corpse of John Locke, does finally get a proper burial, courtesy of Sun's insistence and Ben and Lapidus digging a grave for him. And once he is finally laid to rest, Ilana asks if anyone wants to say anything about him. And nobody jumps at the opportunity. So she's like, well, come on, you all knew him, didn't you? So it ends up being Ben who steps up to eulogize John Locke and ends his eulogy by saying, "I'm very sorry I murdered him," before he turns and walks away to everyone's visible consternation. And we all love Frank Lapidus because he is saying what all of us at home are thinking. He turns around and mutters to himself, "Weirdest damn funeral I've ever been to."
Lapidus, just voice of the common man. Yep. Yeah. Back in the Flash Sideways, we find out that this Locke, who, remember, his relationship with Helen in the primary timeline fell apart because he couldn't stop trying to reconnect with his dad and lying to her about that. In this version, we find out that Locke, he didn't tell her about the walkabout in advance, but he does decide to come clean. He shows her his briefcase full of knives and tells her, I've got this card from a spinal surgeon. He says to give me a consult, but I don't want to keep living my life with this idea that, I can just find something that'll fix me or make me, or some miracle that's going to make me better. And so it's just this guy who just destroyed his life because he couldn't just share this stuff with the people who really needed to hear it, finally has that honesty, expresses insecurities. And Helen, because she's wonderful, just says, "There are miracles, John, and the only thing I was ever waiting for was you." And they hug, and it's just really sweet that Locke, this version of Locke, might actually be moving towards a happy ending. Neither of you? Okay, good.
I was going to let it go.
No classless jokes, please. Please. Back on the island, we get a really awesome set piece that I'd completely forgotten about until we rewatched, where Flock and Sawyer are climbing down two rope ladders on a cliff face, and just 6 years on this island they've been filming, and they're still finding these gorgeous new locations to do stuff. Sawyer, the ladder breaks while he's climbing at one point, and he starts falling until the man in black catches him. And it's just a really awesome, pulled back wide shot of the stuntman just plummeting 30 feet down. Just a really, really nice piece of filmmaking.
And all because he fell from what, Robert?
Attributing this to my wife, Gina, because she said she'd be very annoyed if I didn't. Is that Jacob's ladder?
Because in an alternate version of season 5, we find out that Jacob actually died in Vietnam, and this is his dying dream. The listeners get to, this time around, are spared me frantically Googling who played Jacob in Jacob's Ladder.
But they don't welcome. But while you were looking, I shared my favorite piece of stupid trivia in a dumb movie about the Ryan Gosling, Ewan McGregor film. Oh, shoot, I forgot what it was called. Anyway, sorry.
Kids.
Sorry, listeners, that one is lost forever.
Lost.
We get our final flash sideways to Locke settling in as a teacher at a middle school or a high school, maybe. He's teaching a science class. He's coaching in the gym. And then he goes to the coffee room and discovers that there is a mastermind afoot, a nefarious genius scheming to fix the problem of someone taking the last sip of coffee without throwing out the grounds. And that is being overseen by none other than Dr. Ben Linus, who turns around and offers John Locke a polite handshake. We don't pull back to see what I assume is the rest of the faculty pressed against the wall in terror.
Or an annoyance at this fucking asshole who won't shut up about the goddamn coffee. But anyway, we'd previously seen, we'd gotten to visit the smoke hole where the man in black lives. But now at the end of the episode, we get to see Jacob's hole.
No. God.
Yes, so the ladders take them down to a little cave cut in the side of the mountain where there's a few knickknacks there. There's a scale with a black and white rock on each side, and the man in black throws the white scale out into the ocean, which would be way too heavy-handed even by the standards of Lost, except that he turns to Sawyer and says, "Inside joke," in this way that makes it actually kind of funny and acceptable. But what's really in there is a wall of this cave, actually not just the wall, a ceiling, the whole space is just covered with names. And you can see it's the names of all these characters that we've seen on the island and a bunch of names we don't recognize, and everyone has a number next to it. And David, do you still have the name number combinations?
I do. I just have to scroll forever because Lostpedia's, all of their entries are pages long. Okay, here we go. So number 4 is Locke, which Flock helpfully reaches up and crosses out because he's an asshole. Number 8 is Reyes, so that's Hurley. 15 is Ford, so Sawyer. 16 is Jarrah, so that's Sayid. 23 is Shepherd. Why is that important, Robert?
Because the 23rd Psalm in the Bible is "The Lord is my shepherd." So just another bit of Bible symbolism around old Jack.
You thought him, Flock, throwing the white rock into the ocean was on the nose?
Let's remember that the Psalms were written by King David, so let's just bear that in mind for what we find out next episode.
And then 42 is Quan. So that covers the whole scheme throughout or the scheme theme, whatever, of the whole show, 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, 6 very important numbers, but it kind of seems like we're leaving somebody out, doesn't it? Whose name isn't in there? Oh, wait, that would be Kate, who is number 51 and therefore unimportant entirely.
They should have just killed her.
I don't want to be too ironic about this because maybe the writers do pull something off that I've forgotten about, but it feels like there's a missed opportunity to have her. I will always defend Kate as a missed opportunity of a character, but to have her be the one that doesn't really have a role in the grand scheme of things, so that the Man in Black's ready to just basically ignore her, and that ends up coming back to really blow up in his face. I know she plays a role in his end game, but not really one that feels especially built to.
No, I was going to say, kind of, sort of, but not in a big moving of the chess pieces kind of way, which is, I think, the next thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so essentially, as he points to all these names, Flock explains to Sawyer that Jacob has been influencing all of these people or manipulating them. He says, at some point you were vulnerable, Jacob came to you, he touched you, and that brought you here. And that just kind of emphasizes for him, that's another where he's the opposite side of John Locke's belief. For Locke, destiny was something that kept him going when he was at his lowest, his belief that he always had something higher that he could achieve, some greater thing that he was going to. And for Flock, destiny, as embodied by Jacob, just means that everybody's a puppet, that your choices aren't really yours, even if they think you are. And what he's pitching to Sawyer is, let's just walk away. Let's leave this island behind, get out, go our own way. This island doesn't need us. It's fine. And that's just something I noted down was, in kind of the grand scheme of things, do you guys think, and I know we asked this in the original version of this recording, but pretending we didn't, do you think John Locke had a destiny?
Well, I did point out that, sometimes people's destiny is just to serve as a example for others of what not to do or how to be.
And my thoughts on it were that if he did have a destiny, it was in a, like I just said, a moving the chess pieces sort of way, because it is, I don't want to refer to somebody's destiny as being a con, but knowing why this is important and how it plays out ultimately, wow, what a long con that was to put John Locke in that position to put the chess pieces where they need to be for the finale.
Yeah.
But then you said fuck both of us and just dropped the most profound thing I think anyone said on this podcast.
So yeah, my thinking is that in the grand scheme of things, John Locke's destiny was to make Jack Shepherd into a believer. That for all that he struggled with and failed, that he inspired Jack to be who he needed to be as we go into this final run of episodes. And while I don't know how that would have made Locke feel when he was sitting in the hospital recovering from his injury, I like to think that he's happy with it in the end.
Cara, you good, fam?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're not crying this time?
Trying not to.
Okay, cool. Should we just move on?
Yep.
Yeah. So Man in Black makes his pitch, and Sawyer seems to agree. So Man in Black has recruited kind of his first follower as he makes his own moves.
Into Dumbledore's army. All right, we're going to move on to episode 605, and I feel the need to apologize here as we go into round 2 of this, because This is one of those times I pointed out before we recorded that, like, I found myself just watching these episodes and not taking a lot of notes. The brunt of it really fell on Robert, the guy who's having a hard time speaking tonight. So I'm sorry, Robert. I'll be better about my note taking with the rest of the season. But I do want to say that at the start of episode 605, The Lighthouse, one of the first things we see is a terribly photoshopped photo of Jack's son and wife that I was just like, God, even by 2010 standards, this is bad.
Excuse me, is it his son and wife? Because I know we eventually meet David's mother, and it's someone we've seen before.
Right.
So I know the photo you're talking about. I don't remember who it's supposed to be.
That's what I assumed because I was just so taken aback by how poorly photoshopped it was. But also, like, something I've come to realize rewatching old shows over these last few years, being the like definition whore that I am, everything's in 4K. I want sharp resolution and HDR and all that. Man, there were some things that were just not meant to be seen in 4K. And I think this was one of them.
I was listening to a podcast from the creators of Better Call Saul, and they talked about what a nightmare that is on the production side, because it used to be if a character needed to hold up like a newspaper where the headline had plot significance, you just need the headline, a picture, and the rest can be gibberish. But now you actually need somebody to like dummy up like credible article text, because someone will pause it, and if it just says then people will never let you hear the end of it.
Fucking internet nerds.
Find a life.
Yeah, spending hours and hours just talking about stuff, going over it minute by minute.
Over analyzing things they see on a TV screen.
Well, this is different.
Yeah, we're being cool about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got a podcast.
And tattoos. But yeah, so a recurring thing with Flash Sideways Jack, I think we saw this in the season premiere as well, but he's got what looks like a very recently healed incision on his side. And he seems confused when he looks at it. And he calls his mom to talk about the situation with his dad's missing corpse and asks about when he had his appendix out. And in the Sideways history, that happened when he was a kid, not on the island. So just another like mysterious scar watch, but that is something that will come into play later. That's not the only thing that's different. I think we kind of dropped the name earlier, but what else is different, David?
Oh, nothing much, except that in the Flash Sideways alternate universe, Jack has a son named David.
Aww.
Played by Dylan Minnette, who was like everywhere as a teenage actor during this time period.
Yeah, he was in 13 Reasons Why, but if you're a horror nerd like me and Cara, you might remember him as Wes from Scream 2022, Wes Hicks. Oh yeah, and then so there's a lot of to-do that's made because the spirit of Jacob comes to visit Hurley at the temple and tells him that he needs to find a way to escape and bring Jack with him because they need to go and find some place. There's something that Jack needs to see, but not just that. Jacob needs Hurley's help and tells him, I need you to help get someone to the island, which is the exact opposite problem of the last time they had when somebody was trying to get to the island. Last time they were desperately trying to keep somebody away, or at least Jacob was trying to keep somebody away, and now he needs somebody to arrive. I wonder how that's going to play out for him.
Sure would be funny if it was the exact same person in both cases.
It would, wouldn't it?
It is interesting that Jacob is already, like, the one he most directly relies on of all the candidates is Hurley, that he's the one that he spoke to in the cab and was like, hey, you should go back to the island. That'd be a great thing. And now is just giving him like, hey, write these instructions down on your arm. Here's what you need to do.
I mean, it helps that out of everyone currently on the island, Hurley is the only one who can both see and talk to ghosts. Because we know that Miles can talk to them. He can't see them, however. And I think it's also fitting the Lost tradition. Hurley saw Jacob exactly once when Jacob was alive, and has now seen him twice after he died, which we've come to find out is a thing for all the characters on this show. How many times did we see Ethan when his character was alive, and how many times now have we seen him after he died?
Fitting for a show that has a lot to say about both time travel and the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is, however, in the Flash Sideways universe, still carrying on the long, proud Shepherd family tradition of really angsty father-son relationships. It's not violent or abusive. His son just is clearly totally checked out. And credit to the writers. It would have been really easy to have him be like a snotty, like, I don't care, Dad. But instead, he just kind of knows he has to stay with his dad for the weekend and just kind of wants that to get over with. He's got his headphones in. He's got like no decorations or anything up in his bedroom. And Jack is kind of fumbling to try to connect with him, but it's just not working. And of course, the reason for that is something that gets sort of explored, because back on the island, Jacob tells Hurley, you've got to get Jack to come with you on this excursion. And when Hurley points out that it's hard to get Jack to do stuff that he doesn't want to do, Jacob tells him, just say you have what it takes. And that's like a secret command code, because Jack looks like he's about to cry and then starts shouting angrily as soon as Hurley says that to him.
And if you're like me, you might have forgotten why you have what it takes is important, because at first glance, when I heard this line, I was like, what a super generic like trigger phrase. It's like Jacob could have been like, you need to tell him, good job, sport. And then Jack would be like, why did you say good job, sport? And then I realized like the whole thing about, Christian Shepherd, the aptly named Christian Shepherd, explaining to a young Jack that he doesn't have what it takes to make hard decisions. Like, God damn, Dad.
Just a great establishing character scene, because he's clinking the glasses in his or the ice in his scotch glass as he explains to Jack, a kid died on my operating table today, which is why I need to come home and tell you that you're not up to snuff.
And I can't remember if we discussed it on the last episode or not, because it's been about 6 weeks, and I suppose I could have gone back and listened to my own show, but whatever. Did Matthew Fox get more tattoos between seasons? We explained it away as like, okay, yeah, they've been off the island back in Los Angeles for 3 years. Maybe Jack did, but I have to imagine somebody on the production side would be like, stop getting fucking tattoos, Matthew. God damn it.
Now I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. See, like, does he still have those?
I'm sure there's some fan site that has like a timeline in like, fall of 2013, he got this. At fall.
Yeah.
Well, because we know when he got the symbols on his arm, he walks among them, but he is not one of them. We had a whole episode about that, you guys, remember?
She was not a tattoo artist.
Oh, and then we get another one of our classic check-ins that we love keeping track of so much, but there's a trend going on. We're kind of like doing the opposite of the way things normally go. Usually we get a butt holster check-in anytime somebody sticks a gun behind their back and it just goes straight down their ass crack. This time on their journey, because they go on their merry way, Hurley and Jack encounter Kate, who picks up her gun and puts it down the front of her pants instead of the back. So we get a rare crotch holster check-in.
A cruder man than I would make a joke about the condition of that gun after she sees Jack, but I'm going to let that pass.
Probably for the best.
We haven't really talked about it, but another plot in this is that Jin, after getting his foot stuck in a bear trap, gets rescued by the newly Russified Claire, who's been on the island, not quite alone, but alone enough to go pretty crazy over the last 3 years. She's got a cradle with like a baby doll that she's made from like animal remains. It's a really terrifying little thing.
All I can think of is that Patton Oswalt joke where he's like, the state made me throw out my fuck doll made of shotgun shells and sticks of butter.
I haven't even heard that joke, but I need to find that routine now. But so we get to see a lot of Claire, like she disinfects and she stitches up, and I just note they get their money's worth with the prosthetics on what I am calling the gingery. The gin injury.
Yep, and she, hopefully, Claire explains that she's not alone on the island. She has her father and her special friend.
And then she gives kind of a Kubrick stare to Jin. You're still my friend, aren't you, Jin? And I just put a couple of crazy face emojis after that one.
Because then her head started spinning 360 degrees.
Actually, credit to Emily DeRavin. I appreciate that she didn't go like super big with like screaming and tics or any like really obvious like, oh, I'm playing crazy on television, hamminess. That it's really just, a lot of it is just playing kind of the quiet and the stillness compared to like, the really like sweet, warm kid that Claire used to be. And also it helps that her, like, on a show where a lot of the women had just unreasonable hair game, considering that they were on a deserted island, you know, her, like, golden locks were always just kind of up there. And now she's basically walking around with a squirrel's nest on her head.
Oh, we spent a lot of time talking about like character development and Kate's lack thereof, but there is an important one to mention here, which is that when Hurley and Jack find her in the woods, Hurley's like, "Come on, Jack, we got to go." And Kate's like, "Oh, I'll go with you." And Hurley says, "No, you can't. It's just got to be the two of us." And in a Shyamalanian twist, Kate is just like, "Okay," and fucks off on her merry way. Just isn't like insisting on following them. She doesn't sneakily follow them. She just walks in the other direction. She's come a long way, our Kate.
That's growth.
It really has.
Yeah. But a lot of this episode is just Jack and Hurley walking someplace, revisiting old locations. And one of them is the caves, where they spent so much of season 1, where they find Shannon's inhaler.
The fact that it was in the caves the whole time is also hilarious.
Presumably people were just accidentally kicking it around underfoot the entire time as they were panicking over this poor girl, like, about to choke to death from an asthma attack. But yeah, that was a little over 3 years in Showtime, in universe, 6 years in real life. And now we get an answer as to what happened to that damn thing.
We also get to see the corpses. They called them Adam and Eve when they first found the caves. And Hurley, as he so often does, voices a fan theory from the internet. In this case, the idea that since they've all been hopping around in time, what if these corpses are like 2 815 survivors who died in the past a really long time ago and have just decayed until they caught up with the present? And I don't think Jack even acknowledges that theory, but it's just another cute little, okay, yeah, we know what you're thinking. It's not going to be that, but we're saying it.
Although those 2 corpses have been dead all along.
Doesn't qualify for a watch, but yeah, Jack is still, I think, because this is also the place where he first found his father's coffin, as he mentions to Hurley, and even admits that his dad wasn't in it when he got there. And they talk about why they came back to the island. And Hurley is upfront about, Jacob got in a cab and basically told me to get on a plane and come back to the island. And Jack more sorrowfully says, "I came back here because I was broken and I was stupid enough to think this place could fix me." Which sounds pretty despairing, and yet it's also this huge point of progress because it's noting that Jack realizes someone else or something else needs to fix him, that it's the I can fix everything complex that drove him for so much of the first 3 seasons is something that he started to let go of. So, progress isn't always pretty, but it's nice to see him going in that direction. We haven't really talked much about like his Flash Sideways plot. It's a lot of like little details about this family life that this version of Jack has. Eventually he finds out, like, his son sneaks out of the apartment and Jack figures out that he's gone to audition for like it's like a conservatory or something.
Yeah, well, it's his performance with them, I think.
Yeah, so his son is actually a fairly gifted piano player, which Jack had no idea about. But he goes and he gets to watch his son from the back, and while he's there, he runs into none other than Dogen, the sideways version of Dogen, whose own son is also auditioning. And it looks like Sideways Dogen is the rarest of things on this show, a supportive lost dad who notes that he worries that they're putting too much pressure on their kids, which is not something that most lost dads worry about.
No, most lost dads don't even worry about their kids.
Or know where they're at. Which Sideways Jack did have to do a little bit of investigating to figure out where his kid was at, which includes letting himself into his ex-wife's house and listening to his son's voicemails.
There's a great
but at
moment.
least he cared.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell on his calls, he's like, I can't scream at him because that's going to break stuff, but I don't know what to do. So they get to where Jacob sent them back on the island, and it's a lighthouse. And I just noted that, like, this is a really cool, like, fantasy set piece, because they go up to, like, the lighthouse chamber where they've got the mirrors that, that reflect the light out. And there's, like, a wheel that you can turn to different settings. Each setting has... I'm sorry, I'm getting really backed up here. Each setting has the kind of same name and number combinations from Jacob's Cave in the last episode. And when you turn it, the the magnifiers, the mirrors, the whatever, you can see images from off the island. Like we see the temple where Jin and Sun got married. I think we see some other familiar places. And then when Jack sees his name on there, he insists that they turn it to that setting, and he sees the house he grew up in. And it's just, again, really cool to have this sort of like, this is a magical, neat thing that really is just like a room and an open space to look out over the ocean and the hills and a couple of gizmos. But again, Jorge Garcia and Matthew Fox really sell it, and it's a fun concept. Again, it's that grounded fantasy that I feel like if that show was made today, that would be a whole lot bigger. Like it would be transporting them to another place, and they'd be in like a whole fog of CGI. And no, I just like the simplicity of this one.
Yeah, all the way up until the point where Jack smashes it with a pipe.
Yeah, not really feeling the whole he's been watching us all along thing.
I mean, it is creepy, let's be honest.
We do eventually find out that because Jacob had told him, like, you need to set it to a particular way that will allow whoever's coming to reach the island. But after making smash with the mirror, Jack just goes out and kind of sits on the cliff and looks out at the ocean, and Jacob appears to Hurley and makes it clear that he really just wanted to give Jack a chance to sort of get that off his chest. That, yeah, the guy whoever's coming can find another way to the island. And in the flash sideways, Jack talks to his son, and in a scene that maybe because I'm going to become a father myself this summer, and my mind has already created all sorts of hypotheticals about the neuroses and pressures and anxieties I'm going to have with my son, where Jack finally breaks the cycle of shepherd, father-son problems by getting his son to admit that he didn't tell Jack that he plays the piano because he was worried Jack was so into it that he could only disappoint him. And Jack says, you can never fail in my eyes, no matter what you do. I just want to be a part of your life. And it's, yeah, a really lovely sequence. Again, much like Locke in the last episode, this version of Jack has moved past what defined him and nearly destroyed him before and can make peace with someone he loves.
We're all getting choked up here, aren't we? Wow. First Cara, now you got to find something to make me cry.
That finale is just going to be...
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Oh, God.
I'm just banking it. You know, whenever we get to the end of the finale, we're all going to be fucking puddles. We can't watch and then record because this is going to be like an hour and a half of inelegant bubbling noises.
Yes.
Blubbering is what I was trying to go for there, not bubbling.
I mean, there might be some of that too.
I mean, maybe that should be our live reaction. I'll just record us. Yeah. And I mean, we're going to have Katie and Gina in the room with us as well, I'm sure, who are, you know, Gina being pregnant, I'm sure will handle it with grace. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
If she's not crying by the time, well, I don't want to give anything away, but like I know the spot that is going to set her off if she's not already, because I get a little teary just thinking about it.
Where's Vincent?
Oh, yeah, we haven't seen him yet. Oh,
no, you remember they left Vincent in the past.
Oh, he's hanging out with Rose and Bernard.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, then we get on to episode 6, so the third episode in our block, Sundown. This is a Sayid episode. And we open with Sayid's flash sideways, where he goes to like a lovely house in the LA suburbs, and in this version, Nadia's there, and she opens the door, and just they hug affectionately, and they've got 2 adorable kids. Wait, why are they calling Sayid Uncle? Yeah, so in this version, Sayid is Nadia's brother-in-law, because she married his brother. And even though you can tell from like the moment they see each other, they're both still very much carrying torches.
Yeah, but it's shortly after this we get the thing that we've been building to for 5-6 episodes now, which is Dogen versus Sayid. Fight.
Probably the best hand-to-hand fight this show ever did. Like it is, because it's a great lost tradition to have whenever you introduce like a new heavy, like whether it's Mikhail or Kimi or whoever, they've got to have a big fight with Sayid. And when you've cast Hiroyuki Sanada, who is just this legend of action cinema in Japan, yeah, you've got to, and they're rolling over the desk, like they're grabbing weapons, throwing things. It's an awesome piece of choreography. Ends with Dogen actually getting the better of Sayid. pinning him to the desk and about to stab him in the neck when a baseball that's on his desk gets knocked off. And we've seen it before. Hurley mentioned it, or Jack mentioned it, I think, when they visited him there earlier. But when he sees it hit the ground, Dogen relents and just tells Sayid, like, get out of the temple and don't come back. Or I guess he'll kill him. I don't really know what the implied threat is there. So back in the Flash Sideways, Sayid's brother, Omer, who I think we saw in like one of his flashbacks as a kid, but we've never seen grown up. He's played by an actor who was on The Expanse, Cass Anver. He's been in some other stuff. The brother's kind of a bum, apparently, because he's just clearly can tell that his wife's in love with his brother and is just kind of being a little like passive aggressive and snotty about it. And then it turns out that he got like a loan from a shark to open one of, I forget what business he's in, but he runs a chain of stores. And surprisingly, this loan shark is not super ethical about, ending the debt as agreed or, how he collects it. So
shocking.
Yeah. So the brother's kind of being like, hey, sure would be great if I had a relative with like military training who'd like killed and tortured people. That guy could sure help me out if he cared about me or if he cared about my wife. So it's just, poor Sayid.
Yeah, because so much of his story is like, hey, you used to hurt and kill people, right? Do you want to keep hurting and killing people? No, I don't. Well, you gotta. Times 6 seasons.
So Claire eventually wanders into the temple and delivers a message from Flock, just saying everybody who wants to live can get out of here at sundown. Everybody who stays, just finger across the throat gesture. And Dogen quickly calls Sayid back before he's had a chance to leave. He's like, actually, never mind. Here, take this knife and go stab him. Stab him good. And there's a great little moment where he's saying, the man out there will come to you as someone someone who has died. And Naveen Andrews gives a little reaction that I'm just like, Sayid's probably picturing the many, many people he's killed and wondering which one of them it's going to be.
Oh, shit, that could be anybody.
He's like, but it can only be one, right? Only one at a time.
Well, if he stabs one as he's told to do before they can talk to him, then another one will just appear. All the way up until Shannon appears. It's
like that sequence in Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater where... Cara, have you ever played that game?
Oh, yes.
There's that river where you're walking down and the ghosts of the men you've killed appear. And if you play through the game without killing anybody, it's just a walk. But if you've been shooting everybody, then you're just getting attacked every 3 seconds. But no, we get a moment in... Because Sayid's brother gets roughed up. That's supposedly a mugging, but, it's that kind of mugging that just so happens to occur when you're in debt to dangerous people. And Sayid goes to the hospital and... It looks like he's ready to just tear out there and, mess some people up for his brother right then. But Nadia actually talks him down from that and just kind of keeping her role as the one important person in Sayid's life who never tried to push him into being a killer or a torturer. Instead, what she tells him is he needs to go home and he needs to just make the children feel safe, which... at its core is what a soldier is really supposed to be about, and it's kind of a tragedy of Sayid that he almost never got to embody that element of it.
And, this show has never really been on the nose about anything. I feel like the subtlety runs deep across all of these episodes because when Nadia returns home that night, Sayid is repairing a broken vase that he blames on a boomerang accident. But yeah, she comes home and he's just sitting there forlornly trying to fix something broken.
Oh,
womp womp.
By a tool that only comes back when you throw it away.
Damn. This motherfucker has layers. Wow. Well done.
So out in the forest, he does encounter, I think he gets the classic jungle whisper. No, it's not the whispers. He hears the smoke monster sounds again. And when Locke steps out, he says, what is it? Hello, Sayid. He gets 2 words out and then Sayid stabs him in the chest. And then Locke just kind of nonchalantly pulls the knife out again and just goes, what'd you go and do that for? As if Sayid had stepped on his foot. But question, do you guys think the knife would have worked if he'd stabbed him immediately, or as is suggested later, this might have just been Dogen setting him up to get killed?
Oh, no, I don't think that knife would have worked anyway.
Mm-mm.
We did kind of skip over the fun part here, though, which is on his way there, he comes across Kate.
Oh,
She just pops out of the forest, and Katie and Gina were like, do it. Don't let her talk, Sayid. Just stab her. And we're like, no, calm down. It's not Kate.
Yeah.
Kate is, as far as Sayid knows, Kate is still alive, and it's going to be somebody you know who has died.
Well, but he couldn't be sure because he hasn't been with Kate the whole time.
That's true.
And, talk about a missed opportunity.
We could have had a long sequence of like, Kate pops out and she's like, hey, Sayid, stab. And he's like, all right, I got her. And then somebody else steps out, like Rob McElhaney's other character. He steps out and he's like, I got you, stab. Kimi has been alive for 3 years and he's like, I'm so sorry for everything I did. Stabbed.
so I just wandered through the jungle.
Stabbing people. He comes back like dragging a bunch of corpses through the temple, and he's like, "Dogen, did I do it?"
There's one of these that won. Oh my god! We need to write this parody episode, and that's got to happen.
Close up on Hiroyuki Sanada's face. He says, "Dogen's be like, what the fuck, man? What did you do?"
Oh my god! Oh, I think we're all dead now.
But anyway, no, I think he was being set up to fail.
Now I'm crying for a different reason.
Yeah, we didn't really mention it in the last episode, but Claire is under the impression that the others have taken Aaron, and Jen actually tries to tell her the truth, which is that Kate took Aaron off the island with her when she went. But then when Claire responds to that by burying an axe into one of the others who was still alive, Jen quickly and wisely reverses himself. Is like, oh, yeah, no, I was just saying that so he would, the other would say something. Sure, yeah. And Claire's like, cool, because, yeah, if Kate had taken Aaron, I'd kill her. And meanwhile, we see Kate like happily going back to the temple. What? Claire's there? Oh boy, I better go tell her that I took Aaron. And that scene is exactly as hilarious as we all thought it was going to be.
Because once again, Katie and Gina are like, do it. Go and tell her.
So yeah, Flock he doesn't really get into the broader metaphysics of everything with Sayid, of like Jacob, puppet, blah, blah, blah. Instead, he's just more kind of like, what's the thing you want most? What if you could have that back? And Sayid says the only person or the only thing I ever loved?
Yeah. There was a lot of to-do being made about that he called Nadia a thing.
Well, he says died in my arms, which could describe Nadia or Shannon. Just something that people will point to for a certain decision in the finale. But yeah, so it's interesting that whereas Jacob's whole thing is kind of pointing people in a direction that isn't necessarily going to be easy or healthy or even end with them, not suffering or dead, he seems to be like the journey and the struggle is a part of it. And Flock's whole thing is, what if there was an easy way you could just get what you wanted? And all you have to do is come with me and leave this island. But he's very much there's actually been an easy out this whole time, and that's part of how he appeals to people. So Kate, I note here, she just continues to bounce around obliviously in the background of the actual plot, but she goes to the temple, and they're keeping Claire. They said throw her in the hole after she delivers Flock's message, and that literally is a hole. There's just like a room in the temple where there's a big hole in the ground, and Claire is at the bottom of it. And Kate comes in and is just like, hey, Claire, guess what? I took Aaron off the island, and he's such a beautiful boy, and he's so wonderful, and it's been so great. And Claire is just looking up with the phrase, if looks could kill, seems insufficient.
She would be vaporized.
Yeah, daggers coming out of guns are coming out of Claire's eyes. And
you expect her to just start vibrating with anger.
Yeah.
And Kate, I don't think Kate ever actually seems to register that. Like at the end, she's just like, and I want to get you back to him too. And yeah, just does not seem to recognize that Claire is not
okay,
just tripping over herself to be thankful for all this. So, in the flash sideways, Sayid eventually tracks down the guy. No, sorry, he doesn't track them down. He gets picked up by the guys who roughed up his brother. He's taken to a restaurant where it is revealed that the big boss is none other than Martin Keamy.
What?
And he's like making himself breakfast and just, having some eggs. But, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Kevin Durand is just devouring the scenery in this, just playing the like quirky mob boss. Like, hey, I'm making eggs. You want some eggs? They're good eggs. Okay, well, I'll have my own eggs.
I love watching him be crazy. He's so good at it. Just this past weekend, Katie and I went and saw Ready or Not 2, which featured both Kevin Durand and Richard Alpert himself, Nestor Carbonell.
Ooh.
Oh.
So, if we ever wanted to do another Lost Adjacent movie, we could always pick that one.
Okay.
And then, so he tries to kind of tough talk Sayid to be like, hey, you never know when some violence could happen unexpectedly, which Sayid takes as a cue because he promptly kills the other two people in the room, points a gun at Keamy. And after Keamy's like, okay, well, what if I just forgive your brother and we walk away? Sayid basically gnaw dogs him and just shoots him in the chest.
And that's the Sayid that we know and love.
Yep. Just accepting himself. And interesting that, like, after the last few episodes of Jack and Locke seeming to move beyond the thing, Sayid's flashback seems to end with him just embracing this part of himself that he always was running away from, and not necessarily for the best. But before he can leave, he hears a thumping coming from the freezer in the restaurant, and when he opens it, he finds a tied-up Jin saying something in Korean that I don't think any of us understood, but yeah, how did Jin get there? We'll find out.
Yeah. And then we get the showdown at the temple.
Yeah, Sayid goes back in and finds Dogen sitting, holding that baseball over the pool of magic water where Sayid got revived earlier. And he tells the story about how basically his son was nearly killed in a car accident because Dogen had been drinking. Jacob came and offered to heal his son, but on condition that Dogen would come to the island and never see his son again. And so with that last piece of backstory established, Sayid then drowns Dogen in the magic water. And then when Lennon shows up, who has kind of been in the background these few episodes we haven't really talked about, he unwisely decides to get mouthy with the guy who just killed the previous biggest badass on the island, and then gets his throat slit in short order with the killing knife that Sayid had been given.
Yeah. Goodbye to the coolest guest star this show has had, Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah.
And you too, Lennon, I guess.
Yeah.
Although Lennon does live long enough to basically say, with him dead, the monster can get in, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Which explains why a moment later, we get another smoky rampage.
And it is a rampage that takes out most of the temple others, but conveniently leaves all of the important people alive. So the statue crew gets out through the same escape hatch room, whatever you want to call it.
They show up just long enough to, I think they get Miles, and they find out that Sun has missed Jin yet again.
But they miss Kate. Ben goes off to find Sayid and instead finds him holding a knife near two dead bodies and wisely just backs off. So the statue crew gets away. Everyone else goes outside, including Kate and Claire, and now we see that Flock has assembled his army. Although we don't see Sawyer, I don't think.
We do not. It kind of hilariously, Kate just seems to be kind of walking around waiting for somebody to like stop or threaten her. And when she realizes nobody's paying attention, she kind of just awkwardly picks up a gun and keeps walking.
Well, I guess I'm doing this now. And
it's a fun, because after all the chaos dies down, when you have people walking through the corpses, you hear a very slow, spooky rendition of Catch a Falling Star and Put It in Your Pocket, which is way back in season 1, Claire talked about that being the lullaby that her dad would sing to her. We find out that was Christian, and it's the one ask she makes when she's ready to give Aaron up for adoption, which is that they would sing that to him. She's singing it a little quietly to herself when she's in the hole, and then, it plays over the carnage of the temple as they all walk out.
Womp womp. So that is going to wrap up this week's batch of episodes. And unless, something else comes between us, we should be back next week to continue this discussion.
Yay.
And maybe, wrap up this show before the 16th anniversary of when it concluded. We are recording this on April 1st, so, happy April Fool's Day to everybody out there. Maybe that's why the first recording shut off. It was just my technology playing a cruel joke on me.
Got us good, electronics.
Yeah, they always do that to me. So this episode is dropping on Thursday, April 2nd. So some relevant dates, and a couple of these are right on the money. April 1st, 2005 was episode 119, Deus Ex Machina. March 29th, 2006 was episode 217, Dave. March 28th, 2007, so a little over 19 years ago, we said goodbye to Nikki and Paolo, gone but not forgotten. March 20th, 2008, episode 408, we met Kevin Johnson in Meet Kevin Johnson when Michael returned. And then 17 years ago, on April 1st, 2009, was episode 511, Whatever Happened, Happened. And then we're not there yet, but we will be soon. A little over 16 years ago, on March 30th, 2010, was episode 610, The Package. Which, if I'm remembering that episode correctly, we're all going to be grabbing for the tissues a little earlier than the finale.
Oh, fuck.
So, that is going to wrap us up. We're not actually, in shows right now, so we don't have anything to plug. So I guess just we'll go back to...
I am working on one show out in Waxhaw.
Oh, that's right. You are.
Yeah.
Robert, give that show a plug.
The Beauty Queen of Lannan, a play by Irish playwright Martin McDonagh, who for the last couple of years has been working on films. So if you've seen In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, Banshees of Inisherin, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri... That guy. This is one of his earlier works. It's a fun little 4-person psychodrama set in a remote Irish village. It's going to be coming up in the first weekend of April, the first weekend of May. So if you're in the Waxhaw area, check it out.
Excellent. Cara, what are you reading or, drawing any kind of spark of joy from currently?
So I have followed up my listening to The Shining with Dr. Sleep. And I almost wrecked my new work vehicle when I was driving down the road, and Dan, says there are other worlds than these, and I almost wrecked the car because I was like, oh my God, he said that thing. So yeah, that's just, been fun. And then I saw a tease from Stephen King that, we're going back to the territories, and I just can't wait. Oh my God. So yes,
I can't wait for that book to come out. I'm also going down an Stephen King rabbit hole again because I was like, it's been a while since I read Desperation. Let's abuse the hell out of my poor psyche and imagination because God, what a fucked up book that is.
Ooh, because I just finished that one. So
is that the one that he did the 2 mirror books? Like one is Bachman and one is him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, characters.
Desperation and Regulators.
Yeah, characters in one book are like the opposite in the other one. Ooh. Yeah, it's very
so cool.
Very, very, very disturbing stuff.
What?
But if you would like to follow me online, the best place to do that is on Instagram at DB Hensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online or at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Don't get stabbed by Sayid.